Check, check. Cool. Thanks everyone for having us. Today our panel is called The Future of Liquid Restaking. I'm sure many of you guys have heard about what LRTs are. Hopefully you guys have farmed some points and earned some rewards through it. But yeah, before we jump into it, let's just start off with some intros. I'll start myself. My name is Jacob. I am a staff data scientist at Gauntlet. Been most recently managing the restaking team over the last year. And so currently we're working with LRTs, we're working with EigenLayer as well, and operators, just to, we're very excited about restaking as a vertical, as a new mechanism. And yeah, why don't you kick us off, Marin?
Hey everyone, this is like third time in a row you hear about Lido, so I'll be brief. My name is Marin. I'm a contributor to the Lido DAO as Master of Protocol Relations. Lido is a liquid staking platform, definitely largest one and the industry leader in all of the blockchains. Currently at 25 billion TVL, setting standards for institutional, retail, and simplicity of staking.
Hi everyone, I'm Sue. I lead APAC for Eigen Foundation. I joined EigenLayer first at LabSci, was in charge of staker and operator. Yeah, EigenLayer, as you probably know, our founder Shahram created the concept of restaking, created a lot of hype in the space on the whole, staking then restaking extra yield on Ethereum, but we're definitely more than that. We're essentially I would say like a platform to bootstrap economic security for any protocol that needs that uses proof of stake network. And then now our focus is mostly on ecosystem, helping our AVSs, who are the protocol that are using our shared security to grow better. Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Gabriel. I'm the DeFi growth lead at Mantle. For those who don't know, Mantle is a few things. One, it's one of the largest on-chain treasuries in the world. It's also the creator of the Mantle network, which is a Ethereum layer 2 network. And we also have our own liquid staking protocol called METH or METH protocol. And yeah, great to be here.
Awesome, cool. So, excuse me, before we kind of jump into the questions, just to kind of set the stage here. So Lido actually revolutionized ETH staking by launching the world's first LST or liquid stake token. Basically, the idea of it is you can take your staked ETH and get a liquid form of it so that you can use it across DeFi, which is really awesome, and it helps people without 32 ETH pull together a staking pool and actually collect staking yields. Since then, with the launch of EigenLayer and this concept of restaking, this new protocol has come up called LRTs, which are liquid restake tokens. So I guess, and so LRTs have grown massively. There are a lot, I think like probably over 10, and LRTs are actually now going even beyond ETH derivatives. And so actually, my first question is for Sue. As the EigenLayer protocol were built, I mean, obviously you weren't in Sriram's head years ago, but I'm just curious, were LRTs like something that you guys anticipated to be this big?
Definitely not. I think this is what's interesting about crypto, right? Like you created this one concept and everyone kind of all of a sudden decided that actually this is great. And obviously we are not a DeFi protocol. I think a lot of people misunderstood EigenLayer as a DeFi protocol, but that's not what we are. The LRT teams are essentially more in the DeFi space and building like liquid restaking on top of us. So I think it's actually great to see how things have developed because on its own, it means that restaking concept is well liked and adopted by the mainstream, and people actually want to be part of the ecosystem. And building an LRT is enabling a lot of the DeFi use case of what restaking could be. So it definitely unlocks some of the use case that we never thought that we had. So yeah.
Awesome, cool, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Gabe, I guess Mantle is actually known for the L2, which has grown considerably this year, and it's been a success. And you guys already have your own LSD called METH, right? But you guys have recently announced that Mantle is also launching your own LRT. I think it's called CMETH. A lot of different types of letters in ETH. But yeah, could you describe Mantle's decision behind why you guys want to launch your own LRT?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess to shed a little bit more color onto what is CMETH, it's essentially a kind of like a vault style product where essentially you as a METH holder can opt in to get a share of the restaking rewards, right? And what it essentially does, it's a restaking layer agnostic product. So regardless of whether it's EigenLayer, Carrot Network, or Symbiotic, we are essentially creating a vault product that optimizes across all the various different LRT restaking strategies, right? So it's generally a very UX-focused play, right? We want to create a very convenient derivative for restaking, where users don't need to go to this, so many different restaking platforms to essentially manage their own restake token. And what they're essentially doing is depositing their asset into this vault product, where they get a liquid version called CMETH. So the rationale here is that we sort of believe in a future where there is eventually going to be a lot more, in a permissionless world, right? We start to see a lot more like L1s, L2s, people building very similar kind of networks. And I think we will definitely see the same thing with restaking protocols as well. And we have already been seeing that with like new incumbents like Carrot Network and Symbiotic. So we want to create like a very flexible design that is able to adapt whenever there's like new platforms coming out, and we are able to integrate new strategies and allow users to very simply just opt in and opt out. That's it.
Got it. So you guys the LRT is actually going to be a restaking layer over METH specifically.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, I want to ask you, Marin, from Lido. So, LSTs are a popular way to be an underlying asset within LRTs, but I'm curious, does Lido actually see LRTs as competitors? What is your take on LRTs in general?
So, I mean, just a slight digression. It's not Lido's stance until it's voted in. So what you hear, it's my personal opinion. As someone who does it day-to-day hands-on, I would say it's a direct competitor until there's slashing introduced. From there onwards, it's a completely different asset class, and you have a situation where all these LRTs essentially become asset managers, and they have different liabilities, they will have different risk approaches, and it essentially changes the whole structure. So from that moment onwards, it will not compete directly. But when you look at STETH as an asset itself, the whole logic behind it is to be as safe as possible, as strong as possible, as a primitive building block. And that's why even when EigenLayer initially deposited the vaults, STETH vault filled up in 5 minutes. So when the second cap was raised, if you didn't do it within 10 minutes, gone. Then there were a bit of plays on the market, to get other assets deposited and to switch it more towards ETH. But it all tells you about how users actually want safe source of rewards, right? Mm-hmm. That's something that's there. And then what are actually LRTs today? It's liquid stake tokens or the Doji naming native restaking, which kind of give or take, plus points. It's aggregation of points, airdrops, subsidizing of returns. So it's a bit of during this narrative surge, what happened, industry was hungry, and then we kind of took a bite for the restaking, which essentially is just collateralizing your staked Ethereum.
Right. So I guess one main value add that Lido has introduced is, one, it lowered the technical requirements to be able to run, basically stake your ETH and also collect ETH yields. Also, it lowered the financial barriers of having 32 ETH. Not everyone has 32 ETH. Technically, an EigenLayer, if you want to restake your ETH, whether it's through an LST or through native restaking, those barriers aren't already there. And so some of the value add of a liquid representation of the token is kind of gone. And so I think one question that I had, and this is kind of a question for everyone, is why have LRTs become so popular when you can just restake your ETH directly, either through Steth or you know, maybe through like native restaking as well for the home stakers?
That's actually a good question. So essentially, if you go with ETH directly to EigenLayer, you do need 32. So that's a bit of a problem for majority of users. So you need to go with a liquid stake token, or now with any other ERC20, which is similar to Symbiotic. But this extra returns, the speculation model behind it was a driver for, let's say, mini bull run, if you can call it like that, where it just made sense. It was stacking points on points, for example, Eigen points, EtherFi points, Veda points on top. So it just made sense for a lot of users to actually go and try something different to get more returns.
I think there was a period of time, actually there's two reasons. I think I agree with what Marin said about market dynamic. I think points kind of narrative took off late last year to early this year. So that was definitely a big hype for a lot of people. People just assume, you know, like farm point. Actually, I also think that there's lack of new innovative DeFi project coming out of the space. I don't think there's many interesting things are out there. So Pendo was definitely at the frontier of the point system. So another reason is actually there was this period of time where, as you mentioned, EigenLayer enables two kind of restaking. So like native restaking, which is you need 32 ETH. This is the same as running a node on Ethereum. And then there's also another type, which is which is LST restaking, but that was capped for a period of time. So for a lot of people, the only way to get access to EigenLayer and to farm Eigen points is through these LRT back channel to be able to gain exposure. So that was kind of the reason for a while, but then of course, like we opened up the cap and that become not an issue anymore. But LRT teams stick through, and also this whole new exploration that they're doing with a lot of other platform on points now. I think LRT project just become like very leaning into the points narrative and start to do a lot of more interesting thing in that field.
Yeah, I think just adding on to what they've already said so far, I think in terms of like any yield farming opportunity on any DeFi user, right? Usually they'll go for either the most safest option or the option that is the path of least resistance, right? So I think lowering the barriers to entry for a lot of these users and just offering like a very simple solution, I think that's like the clear path for a lot of like TVL and capital flow.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I mean, obviously, you might not be able to speak for all of the Eigen Foundation, but you make a very good point, too, about how in the beginning, people wanted to farm points, but the LST caps were so competitive that one easy way to do it is to restake to the protocols. If we were to do this rollout again, would you guys have caps? Have LRTs actually gone too big? Is that something that you guys are worried about? Maybe it's your personal opinion. I'm curious to hear.
Yeah, I guess like can't speak on our team's behalf, but definitely I think the capped approach, a lot of it's also one is to test out the market sentiment and kind of how the product will work out, because we are the first one to do it. No one else is ahead of us. With our competitor, they can look at us and kind of just adopt whatever we've been doing. So that's like a more of a measured approach. The second thing is, yes, I think there's like certain level of risk concern as well. And with the LRT too, I think we're talking with Gauntlet actively to assess a lot of the risk that comes with LRT, because the last thing we want is for any user, even if the user's going to EigenLayer through LRT platform, not directly, but we don't want any user to be having extra risk of losing their kind of ETH staked on LRT platform. So I think definitely LST and LRT, how big it grows is on our day-to-day mind. And when it comes to risk assessment, we're working with external partner to provide more comprehensive information for the users. But I think, yeah, LRT risk is something that users should be aware of. That is not the same as native restaking. So that's just something I think we want to educate all users better on. Yeah.
Could you describe what native restaking is? And so I know that EigenLayer is very unique in that you guys are the only one that offers native restaking compared to other restaking protocols. Why is native restaking important?
Yeah, so native restaking essentially means that you have to have 32 ETH putting on our platform and you putting into EigenPod. And this EigenPod will be run by an operator. And then essentially operator will do work for the AVSs and earn the restaking yield. Why is it important? It's because I think there's a lot of institutional demand for a native restaking product, given that institutions that have large amount of ETH, a lot of them actually have their own node operator arm as well, so they can run their own node. So they feel much more comfortable when it's their own money running by their own people, and to earn the restaking yield on our platform. So I think that EigenPod kind of design and the native restaking creation was very suitable for the high compliant institutional investors in the space. I would say like retail-wise, it makes less sense for them because they probably don't have that amount of ETH, and also before our PayPay upgrade, which is an EigenPod upgrade, the gas fee was relatively high, and we're aware of it. But actually, yesterday we had two big announcements. One is our official EigenPod upgrade, which allows you to withdraw with less gas fee. And second thing is actually our stake drop season 2 is live, but I'll touch on that at another day. Yeah.
I would love to hear from Lido. Like, is native restaking?
So it's a bit of a marketing twist in terms like you need 32 ETH to run a validator. It's the same. Like, let's say you have 1.5 ways of doing it now with the DVT. Like, you can do it as a cluster, but you end up running a validator node same way for every other protocol. Difference is they don't mint an LST token, but they give you ability to collateralize AVSs which you choose through operators. So the thing there, I think it kind of grew too fast. You can see Symbiotic because they came later. They're kind of doing things slightly differently because they have this luxury of seeing what happened on the market. So without subsidizing, end result of restaking is like Stakehouse, one of the financial contributors to the Lido DAO, done a research. They expected 1.7% in terms of AVS emissions, and then a reality hit with 0.08%. So is it worth having these risks on top or going LST? That's for users to choose. But I would like to touch on the institutional side. It's a bit of a misconception. It really depends on which type of institution. Is it an enterprise? It is a crypto-native institution? Are there TradFi? So 25% of Lido is institutional. So you can't say they specifically need 32 ETH deposits. They just deposit. From our experience, they need liquidity, they need the ability to exit, they need additional use cases. And end of the day, and name of the game is who brings more rewards, right? So the underlying thing, and if you are looking 10 years in future, will be who brings more rewards to the users and in safest manner.
Right. I think from what we've seen in the market, it definitely seems like it's not an important point that a lot of like institutional or more whale players really care about. I guess it removes a lot of complexity for them in terms of like whether they should restake natively or they should do it with someone who has probably run an enterprise that is specialized in running validators, right? So I think in that sense, it's not that important unless they are maybe more concerned regarding maybe they are more confident that they can run it themselves, then so be it, right?
Yeah, I guess Maybe we need to switch it out. Yeah, I guess it really depends. As Marin mentioned, there's different kind of institutions. Actually, I'm curious, like the 25%, what's the profile for that? For us, I think, at least from my experience being part of the staker and operator team, talking to Asia investors in the space, I do think a lot of the more, I would say, relatively crypto native, but still like now highly compliant institutions prefer to run their own node operator, like with their own kind of deposit asset, just for the kind of like peace of mind. But yeah, like I think there's a lot of way to play. But actually, on the note that you brought up about rewards, like who brought most rewards, I think there's like something to add on. For EigenLayer, I think the most important thing is that we're not a restaking protocol, period. We are really here to try to make developers' life easier. Hence, we want to bootstrap the economic security. And then we're also building EigenDA, which is data availability. So we're not just about restaking. Hence, the whole, like, I think the focus on rewards and restaking is something we care about, but that's not all we care about. What we care about is how we can sustain our platform and make it better for developers to bootstrap their own protocol very fast and in a less costly way. And then for these developers to then gain like more application users and more users into crypto. That's the mission of EigenLayer. So I just want to kind of touch on that to kind of differentiate ourselves with a lot of the LST and LRT project.
Awesome. And I do want to just kind of shift gears a little bit and just talk about kind of the competitive landscape of just LRTs in general. So if you're a restaker and you're looking for an LRT, like how do you pick which LRT to deposit into? So I think Lido is a very interesting, I think his mic works now.
Yeah, but
Dead battery? Okay, we'll just switch it when you need to speak. But yeah, I think Lido is a very interesting case because one, Lido invented the LST. It had a massive first mover advantage, and the access of differentiation amongst LSTs are very limited in that design space. The rewards are also very similar. I think Izzy earlier talked a little bit about how you guys are the best with like risk management and also doing the due diligence and running operations. But in terms of like to the user, I feel like a lot of it is like you guys built. Using the first mover advantage, you guys just built really deep market liquidity and expanded DeFi integrations faster than everyone else. And it's really hard for a new LST to come and take that market share. And so that is why you guys are by far the most dominant LST. But LRTs, I've heard that there might be more room for differentiation. I'm curious, what are your guys' thoughts? Will there be one LRT to rule them all? And what are the axes of differentiation that LRTs can take to kind of like compete against each other?
That's actually very unclear at this point because we don't actually know how much AVSs are willing to pay for security. So we don't know the returns, so we don't know how risky they need to go and what needs to happen to make it sustainable. But it's a very, 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 very cool new use case to augment staking, right? So it's brilliant. So I would say if you observe the LRTs, they're essentially vaults. And what they're trying to do now, while there's clarity on the market, they are building various vaults and minting various LRTs. So one, let's say, LRT protocol, in average has 5 LRTs. Why? They don't want to concentrate the risk of all of them. So they're trying with EigenLayer, they're trying with Symbiotic, they're trying with Kerak. But what I think will happen, some concept of fund of funds, where they'll will become a new type of LRTs that are aggregating all these LRTs, right? So you
LRT index.
Yes. So you will essentially have an index where you will go with some that are riskier and better returning, and then you will do some anchors, for example, with EigenLayer, where it's coming to being a battle-tested solution, right? But then new protocols obviously will spend more of their tokens and incentives, and they will give you high returns. So you will go with them, right, to give you that boost. But if it explodes, again, yeah, we don't know. If someone tells you they know, they're lying. No one knows.
Yeah, so I think this is, again, my personal view. I'm not speaking on behalf of Eigen Foundation or EigenLayer. I think I would like to think that at some point there's definitely consolidation in the market, and we've already started to see that. If you look at the LRT TVL, probably like the top, like the deposit is concentrated to 2 to maximum 3 players right now. Before it was very fragmented. I think they start to show that the sign. I think it's probably similar to what Lido experienced when Lido came out. I'm sure there's a lot of competitor that you guys face as well. So I do think there will be consolidation in the space. And touch on the fund of fund kind of concept. So my background is in TradFi. I used to work at Morgan Stanley. And I think as DeFi develop, I think there's a lot of innovation that is kind of similarly still referring to how the TradFi space has been developing. And I do think the LRT dynamic, it feels like they're going to approach where, people wanted to assess risk and rewards, and each AVSs is very different and have different kind of risk reward profile. So it does make sense, I feel like, for them to do some sort of I guess segregation between AVS is the reward and risk kind of profile, and then build something more suitable for different kind of clientele on top of that. So that kind of index or fund of fund concept will come through. So I think it's actually something for them to explore, and I think it'll be interesting. But obviously for us as EigenLayer, we will still what we want to do is to better educate users. Hence, we're working with risk assessment, a lot of the external partner to do a lot of the analysis, so that making sure that all users that are getting themselves exposure into LRT, LST, or EigenLayer are not doing anything that they're not aware of. So know the risk and then play with whatever protocol you want to play with. So that's something we are trying to do better in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just adding on to that, I think that's kind of back to my point of the path of least resistance, right? That's why we're building CMETH as a sort of the new next gen of LRTs, right? Not only is it very flexible to future strategies and opportunities that may arise, we also want to make it very sticky in terms of ecosystem-wise, right? So being able to integrate this LRT in a very composable manner across multiple ecosystems, starting with Mantle, of course. Being able to use it in lending markets, perpetual platforms, and basically improving capital efficiency by 100-fold, right? So I think that's kind of what we want to do for in terms of LRTs and where we see the future of LRTs going.
Got it. And if I can kind of chime in also with my opinion, I think you mentioned that the market has kind of converged a bit, but to also Marin's point, LRTs are basically LSTs right now with points as well. I know that there are some AVSs live that it's securing, but I wonder if the market will shift because the risk, the risk composition of each LRT could actually change quite a bit as slashing goes live. So I think there's this divergence here of okay, there could be multiple LRTs because risk profiles could change quite a bit amongst underlying LRTs, whereas with LSTs, it's mostly just one risk profile. And so I think risk management is one layer of differentiation, but the market also values deep liquidity, DeFi integrations, and non-fragmented liquidity. And I feel like those will always be in tension with each other. That's a really difficult problem that we'll see. And I think, yeah, maybe the index LRT idea could work, but at the same time also, isn't the LRT supposed to be an index of restaking yields anyways also? So then it just becomes harder for users to pick. But anyways, this, we are running out of time, but I just want to kind of open it up just for, maybe what is one bold prediction with LRTs 1 year from now? Could be anything.
Oh, so you give it to me first. So I think there will be a huge consolidation period where they will start deflating as points narrative runs out, and as all these airdrops are done. There will be consolidation, and then only handful will survive. We will not have a future with 500 LRTs because it doesn't have any macroeconomical logic behind it. It's just not sustainable, and there's no source of returns that can make it run.
But sorry, I just want to comment on that. Yeah, maybe not 500 LRTs, but right now there's one dominant LST. Do you think maybe there will be 10 good LRTs, maybe 5, or just one LRT?
That actually depends how many restaking protocols survive, right?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see all of them surviving, and we have competition now coming from Solana. There will be some other chains that will throw a glow at us. So it's essentially becoming a PvP market.
Okay. Okay. That is a hot take.
I love the P2P touch over there. I would say, like, obviously, as part of EigenLayer team, I am very optimistic about the future. But I do think that the LRT space will consolidate. That's my personal take. I think those that knows how to run the risk the best, like, eliminate most of, like, because before there was a lot of, like, depegging risk that's out there in the market that people don't really think about. I think, like, those that know how to do the risk assessment the best and, work actively trying to innovate, creating new interesting use case, that's probably beyond just the point system, right? So I think those protocol will be the one that wins. I would say look at all markets out there, it's probably 1 to 2 player max. That's what I think.
Yeah, I do share the same sentiment with consolidation. I think we'll definitely see a lot of those that are probably not so good maybe fade away, and a lot of consolidation towards, like, bigger players. But given it's a very permissionless network, permissionless world, I do believe that there's always a chance for up-and-coming incumbents to take the stage. We've seen that time and time again with other categories and verticals as well in like the whole crypto space. So yeah, overall I'm optimistic, but I do think there's maybe some room to shake up the leaderboards.
And just to kind of close it off, I just want to leave on a spicy note. I actually disagree with the consolidation theory. I think personally it's not good security if all your security comes from one LRT. We've seen withdrawal queues, and I actually talked about it at my 9:15 a.m. talk. But basically, like, if an LRT actually holds most of the security and there is some sort of depeg event where they need to fulfill withdrawals, I think it can put a lot of the security of various networks at risk. I think a good AVS would want multiple LRT partners, and I think because AVSs determine the demand for the security and their willingness to pay, I feel like there is room for multiple players.
Sure, but I don't think we are looking at a future where only collateral are LRTs and aggregating other tokens. When you are an AVS, do you want to pay security in ETH? No. Do you want to pay in stables or fiat? No. You want to give them your governance tokens, and you probably want to accept governance tokens as security. So there will be various asset classes entering restaking space, and I still think staked Ethereum is the best collateral out there that will over time become dominant.
Okay, we can end with that. Thank you, everyone.